Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the most of tone and colour in your winter landscapes, and also how to add a classic border. So here we have our original image shot on a fine frosty morning, and what we're going to do is really pull out the tones to really highlight the detail within those reeds on the bank, and also make the most of the colour and tone in the foreground and also in the sky. So at the moment there's a slight cast covering the image, and what we want to do is just neutralise that, just to bring out the frostiness and coldness of the morning, and also just to enhance a few of those colours as well, just to warm up those reeds. So when we've finished our image, we'll end up with a picture that looks just like this. And here we can see we've still got a bit of that pinkish tone coming through in the clouds. We've also pulled out and warmed up those reeds in the foreground. Also, the definition of the pebbles in the shore here, they look a little bit more pronounced. And we've also added a two-part border. Firstly, with white keyline just going around the edge, and then a big, thick black border around the outside edge. So we're going to start off with our raw file. So I'll just close these two images down. I then go up to File, down to Open, select my winter before.dng file, and that'll automatically open up into Adobe Camera Raw. Now with that open, I want to first of all just use the white balance tool to correct any colour casts and just neutralise the colour within the image. So you'll find the white balance tool just here in the top tool palette, and then I'll just go down to the shoreline and find a nice grey rock, somewhere where the RGB values are all pretty much the same. So you can see there they're all mid-60s to mid-70s. Just click once, and that'll just neutralise the colour. So I just preview before and after, and you can just see the effect of that neutralisation on the image. Just going to click back onto the move tool so I don't reset the white balance. So as we can see, that's just neutralised the colour a little bit. At the moment it's still looking a little bit too warm, so I'm just going to drop the temperature of the image down to about -6. And we can do that if we go to the Basics tab, down to temperature, and we'll just reduce this slider here down to about -6. So if I just click preview off and on, you really see the effect that that's having. Now that I've done that, I just want to add a little bit more of a pink tone to the image, especially to the sky. So I'm just going to move the tint slider, just increase that to about +8. And we can just see that pinkish colour in the sky coming back through. So now we've set our white balance and also adjusted the tint of the image, we can now take a look at the main exposure controls under the Basic tab. Now before we start this, we want to make sure that our clipping warnings are switched on, and what those will actually do is just show us where either the shadows or the highlights within the image are being clipped. So if we go up to the histogram, we'll see two little triangles in the top left and top right. If we just click into each of those, and we'll see this blue mask appear down in the bottom left that shows clipped shadows, and a red mask that appears here just on the horizon that shows clipped highlights. So the first thing we want to do is just brighten the image just very slightly. Now this will burn out some of the highlights, but we'll come onto that and pull those back in a minute. So we're just going to increase the exposure slider up to about +0.55. And as we do that, we can see that clipping mask for the burnt out highlights increase. But don't worry too much about that at the moment. Now we're going to use the recovery slider and just increase that to +15. And as we do that, we'll just see those highlights start to disappear. We're also going to take a look at reducing those clipped shadows as well. So we're going to boost the fill light up to about +20. Now we don't want to completely get rid of those clipped shadows, otherwise the image will start to look flat and unnatural. So what we're going to do just to finish that off, and also to help reduce the last of those clipped highlights, is just to reduce our brightness down to about -6. Now with that done, we're going to boost the contrast up to +5, and finally we'll increase the vibrance up to +15, and that'll just really pull out that colour. So with our colour changes made, we're now going to just take a quick look at noise. So if I click on the Details tab, which is the second one along within the ACR interface, and I'm going to just zoom the preview in to 100% so I can really see what's going on. So if I just go Control plus, zoom that in, and down in the bottom left you'll see the percentage of the image, percentage size. I just want to take that up to 100%. Now, because we've got the Move tool selected, we can just left click. I just want to go into an area of the sky so I can really see the effect of any grain. And what I want to do is just to increase the luminance slider of the noise reduction up to about 50, and I'm going to increase the colour slider all the way up to about 80. So with that finished, I'll just click Open Image, and that'll open up our winter landscape within Photoshop Elements 8. Okay, now that we're in Edit Full of Photoshop Elements within the main application, what we want to do is take a look at enhancing the sky. So I'll select the Quick Selection tool just over on the left hand side in the tool palette, and then quite simply just left click, drag the mouse and then release the mouse button to select the sky. And as I do that, you'll see those running ants appear just showing the sky is selected. Now before I make any further enhancements, just want to refine the edge, and that just helps create a nice smooth blend between the enhanced and unenhanced areas. So I'm going to make the smooth up to about 30, and that just softens or rounds the edges of our selection. And then I'm going to increase the feather right up to about 10, and that just feathers the selection in between the new and the old. So if I just click on the red mask, I can just see the effect of both of those edge refinements on the selection. Quite happy with that. Just click OK to confirm. Now at the moment we've got a slight muddy cast going on in the sky, and I just want to brighten that up and really kick out the tone and the colour. If I go down to my half moon icon in the layers palette, just left click and select levels. Now I'm going to pick the white point pipette and just click just above the horizon in that white area above the trees. Just click once, and you'll just see how that sky lightens and we've got a slightly brighter effect to the sky. Now that we've taken a look at the sky, I just want to start to enhance the foreground. Now a quick way to just make a foreground selection is just to hold down the Control key on my keyboard, then left click into my Levels Layer Mask, then go up to Select, down to Inverse, and that'll invert our selection. Now I want to take a look at really enhancing those colours within the foreground. So if I go down to the half moon icon, select Hue Saturation, and then to selectively adjust the colours, if I go to the Edit drop down here, first of all I'm going to start with blues and just reduce the saturation of the blue in the foreground to about -30. And as I do that, you'll just see a little bit of that blue cast in the foreground disappear. Then I'm going to click back onto my Edit drop down and select yellows, and this time I'm just going to boost the yellows up to about 15. And as I do that, you can just see the yellow increase on the rushes on the left hand side. It's just adding a little bit more warmth to the image as well. Okay, now we've adjusted the colours within the image. I want to flatten those two adjustment layers down onto our background layer. So if I go up to our layer options, just select flatten image, and that'll flatten those two adjustments down onto our background layer. The last step for enhancement, and really to draw out the detail within these pebbles in the foreground and also in the reeds on the left hand side, is just to do a little bit of burning. So if we go over to our burn tool, want to make sure that our range is at shadows, and we're just going to reduce our exposure down to about 5%. I'm just going to increase the brush size a little bit as well, so you can do that with the square bracket tools. The right hand square bracket tool will make it go larger, left hand square bracket tool just make it a little bit smaller. So now we've done that, just going to very quickly just paint over the foreground. And as I do that, you can really see sort of the definition of the pebbles in the foreground come through, and also in the reeds just quickly, and actually doing that really pulls out the detail of those reeds and also sort of enhances the warmth coming through from that morning sun. Now that we've made all of those image enhancements, the final step is really just a quick bit of sharpening. So if we go up to Enhance, down to Adjust Sharpness, make sure that our preview is at 100%. And as you can see, it's all a bit over sharpened at the moment, so we're getting that sort of halo effect. So I want to decrease the amount to about 65, and we're going to take that radius down to about 1.6. So if we have a look at before by just left clicking into the preview window and after, see that's pretty good, but I'm just going to reduce the amount a little bit further to about 60%. And that's all looking pretty good. Just check down in the foreground as well. Check that's all looking okay. And the pebbles are looking good. And we'll just click OK to apply that sharpening to the image. Okay, so that's it for the image enhancement, and now what we want to do is take a look at applying a border to the image. But before we do that, we just want to crop into the picture. I want to crop in ready for print. Now, because we want to print on A4, we're going to crop the picture ready for an A4 print. So the first thing to do is just pick the crop tool, and you'll find that over there on the left hand side. Aspect ratio, we're just going to leave that with no restriction, and what we're going to do is actually type in the dimensions that we want. Now, taking into consideration that we want to add that border, we need to leave a little bit of space on either side, top and bottom, for that. So width-wise, I'm going to just type in 180 millimeters, making sure that I put the units in after the values, otherwise it'll default to pixels. Height-wise, I'm going to go for 267 millimeters, and resolution, I'm just going to leave it as it is, which is about 240 ppi. So now I've done that, I can just use the crop tool and just drag that across the image. And as you see, our aspect ratio has changed very, very slightly, so I've got a little bit of space down at the bottom that will be cropped off. If I just use my cursor, my arrow keys, to move the crop box along, and we've also got this sort of signpost over on the right hand side which I just want to take out of the picture. So if I grab hold of the top right hand anchor point, just going to move that in slightly to the left, and you can just see that masked out dark area around the image, and that'll be cropped out. So just hit the green commit button down in the bottom, and that'll crop in to our image. So we've now cropped our image to size, ready for print on A4, and now what I want to do is build that size back up so it matches exactly with an A4 sheet of paper. So the first thing I want to do is add that keyline border. So if I go out to Image, down to Resize and Canvas Size, I want to first of all check that my canvas extension colour is set to white. I want to make sure that my anchor point is set to centre. Then where it says units, at the moment those default centimetres, I'm just going to change those to millimetres. I basically want a 1mm keyline going all the way around the image. So 1 mil on each side of the picture, so that's an extension of 2mm. So I'll change the width to 182 and the height to 269. Now if I click OK, we should see our white keyline border appear around our image. So with that done, we can now apply the black border. So again, back up to Image, Resize and Canvas Size. Once again, I want to just ensure that my units are changed to millimeters. This time I want my extension colour to be black. Make sure that I've got the centre anchor point selected. Then I want to just type in the dimensions of an A4 sheet, which is 210 millimeters by 297. Then just click OK, and that'll apply that to the image, extending the canvas size. So if I go Control 0, and there we have our final winter landscape with improved tone and colour, and the addition of a classic border with white keyline edge, just finishing it off nicely.